Going fast makes me feel alive. My heart beats in hyperdrive. Welcome to the mean streets of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's new Domino City, where sector security prowls, outlaw duel runners brave the disenfranchised satellite district, and apocalyptic evil stir beneath the ancient earth and from the far side of a doomed future. Get ready to rev it up, because up-and-coming turbo duelist Yusei Fudo is about to change the destiny of his city and world with his 10 most important cards. We'll start this list the same way Yusei started the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D series in his first duel against Officer Tetsu Trudge in Episode 1 by calling on Speed Warrior. This level 2 Wind Warrior with 900 attack and 400 defense comes out of the gate with a burst of speed that lets him double his original attack to 1800 for the extent of the battle phase on the turn that it's summoned. He's been a core part of Yusei's deck building for a long time, and was one of the few cards that has remained with him since his days running with the Enforcers, a duel gang comprised of Yusei, Jack Atlas, Crow Hogan, and led by Kalen Kessler. Compared to the previous anime series, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds has a grittier, slightly older aesthetic that Speed Warrior helps set the tone for. Rather than the comic book spunkiness and bright colors of Jaden Yuki's Elemental Heroes, or Yugimoto's menagerie of mythical monsters, Speed Warrior is a drab gray-green color with tactical armor that includes a breathing apparatus reminiscent of those used by jet pilots. This grit over whimsy design drives home a distinction between Yusei and predecessor Yugi and Jaden. His home is not a school or family shop where games are played for fun. Of course, the adventures of Yugi and Jaden would dredge their own darkness, but the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds is a dystopian police state. For Yusei, the freedom and welfare of his friends and found family relies on his ability to outpace the law, despite limited access to resources. His Episode 1 duel against Trudge happens because the officer wants to apprehend Yusei's friend Rally for illegally obtaining the computer chips that enables Yusei to operate his duel runner at full power. Like Yusei and his DIY motorcycle, Speed Warrior makes the most of its 900 attack with its doubling effect. Trudge even responds with glee when Yusei first summons Speed Warrior, thrilled that his quarry can't put up monsters strong enough to take down Assault Dog. He's wrong, of course, underestimating Yusei, because isn't that just another duel running punk from Satellite? Speed Warrior destroys Trudge's Assault Dog, and after a gauntlet of back and forths, Yusei takes the duel. Speed Warrior would often work in conjunction with other Yusei staples like Junk Synchron, who can revive it from the grave, and Reinforced Truth to call it out from the deck, and this card would run alongside Yusei during some of his darkest duels, bravely charging such dangerous foes as Flying Fortress Skyfire, 100 Eyes Dragon, and Earthbound Immortal Uru. In the period leading up to the World Racing Grand Prix, Yusei, shaken by an intense encounter with the synchro-absorbing Mech Lord Emperor Weasel, experiences some nightmares. In particular, he dreams up a duel that opens up with his opponent's Tiger Dragon easily tearing down Speed Warrior and the back row set to protect it. Speed Warrior is so important to Yusei that when his unconscious mind gives shape to unspoken fears, the resulting scenario is one that includes Speed Warrior's demise. All of the things on this list are important to Yusei, but we're talking about Speed Warrior first to both ground this list in the world of 5Ds, and because it's a position that reflects the thematic importance of Speed Warrior to Yusei's deck. All journeys start with a decision to begin moving, and this sparky monster is the point where many of Yusei's most tried and true strategies hit the ground running. In Episode 1, Yusei's friend Rally Dawson gives him a chip to power his duel runner. In Episode 3, Rally presents him with the number 9 card on this list, Turbo Booster. It's a level 1 Earth machine with no attack or defense that nevertheless retains an important spot in Yusei's deck. Turbo Booster can special summon itself from the hand if you have already performed a normal summon near this turn, which alone would make it a great extender. But even better is it has the ability to tribute itself to destroy an opponent's monster that battled one of yours, making it a great option for pivoting during your main phase too. Yusei would use this removal effect during his second duel against Tetsu Trudge, removing the officer's gate blocker that his empowered Speed Warrior still failed to destroy. This is noteworthy because it shows how even when Yusei pulls up short, his bond with his friends and allies gives him the extra juice to overcome greater obstacles. Rally gave his copy of Turbo Booster away, but it wasn't a blasé gift. Depending on if you're watching the sub or dub, it's either Rally's favorite card or a memento of his father. Either way, it's an important keepsake that Rally chooses to part with because he believes in both Yusei's ability as a duelist and in the compassion of his heart. Although he wouldn't appear as frequently as other characters across the run of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, Rally Donson is a pivotal figure in the shared past of arch rivals Jack Atlas and Yusei Fudo. Following the collapse of the Enforcers, also known as Team Satisfaction, Jack and Yusei would fall into radically different methods of coping with the fallout. While Yusei still believes in collaboration, Jack develops a more nihilistic mindset that prioritizes individual strength while devaluing the softer emotions and bonds he perceives as holding him back from personal success. Growing distant from his circle, only good-hearted Rally Donson is able to remain close with Jack, encouraging him to not withdraw into full isolation. Ultimately, Rally's faith in Jack would deal Yusei a devastating blow. When Lazar approaches Jack on behalf of Rex Goodwin, offering an invitation to live the high life of a pro-turbo duelist in New Domino City, Jack is willing to accept this offer, even at the cost of hurting his friends. After tying Rally up on a boat that's drifting out to sea, he calls Yusei, who was quick to arrive on the scene. Forced by Jack to choose between protecting his duel runner and cards, or saving the life of the mutual friend, Yusei abandons his gear, diving into the bay to save Rally in a move faintly reminiscent of Joey Wheeler's plunge of the Duelist Kingdom Ferry. While Yusei is being a hero, Jack steals his friend's cycle and Stardust Dragon, laying the foundation for the first major arc of the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. In this way, Turbo Booster, as an extension of Rally Donson, is symbolic of the philosophical divide between Yusei and Jack. When Yusei uses Turbo Booster, he's calling upon the strength of the community he fights for. This would eventually be weaponized against him during a ground duel against the Dark Signer Roman Goodwin, who, upon realizing he is going to lose the match, does some malevolent shadowy trickery and flees while calling upon the soul of Rally Donson to take his place. Previously siphoned into the underworld to power up the Earthbound Immortals, a shaken Rally would resume the duel, using Uru to take control of Turbo Booster so he can tune it with Turbo Rocket to create Turbo Cannon, a card that he then uses to blow up Roman's leftover Earthbound Immortal Uru and annihilate his own life points. Crumbling again into dust, Rally's spirit would prove resilient against the betrayal of Jack Atlas as he again puts his faith in a friend, pleading with Yusei to rescue the satellite until the Netherworld reclaims his soul. Ultimately, with the help of the other Siders, Yusei would succeed in his mission, saving Rally Donson, Carly, and all the rest, even a remorseful Kalen Kessler. And at number 8 on this list of Yusei's top 10 that proves anyone can shoot for the stars regardless of material situation, check out Yusei Fudo's Debris Dragon, a level 4 wind tuner with 1000 attack and 2000 defense. Debris Dragon debuted in episode 64 of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds during the epic clash between Team Yusei, Jack Atlas, and Crow Hogan against the resurrected Dark Signer Rex Goodwin. Debris Dragon's effect lets it revive a negated monster with 500 or less attack from your graveyard on normal summon. This is pretty good, but Debris Dragon does have some limitations to work around. It can only be used as a synchro material for dragons, and the monster it tunes cannot be level 4. During Debris Dragon's first duel against Rex, this was no problem for Yusei, who used it to revive Sonic Chick, turning them both into Shield Warrior to call out his ace Stardust Dragon. From this duel onward, Debris Dragon would be a core part of Yusei's strategy, used against Rudolph Heitman, Ellsworth, Andre Primo, Taro Yamashita, Haldar, Jacob Z1, and his final match against Jack Atlas. It makes sense that Debris Dragon would become such a key player to Yusei's deck since it links the two main themes of his cards. Debris is another word for junk, aligning it with Yusei staples like Junk Synchron, Junk Barrage, and Junk Warrior. Debris is also linked to Stardust Dragon, because what is Stardust but the debris of the cosmos? It is the uncatalogued stuff that comes together to form planets, light, and life. Debris Dragon itself bears a strong visual resemblance to Stardust Dragon, appearing as a smaller, perhaps younger form. It is the embodiment of junk as a vital cosmic force, and a walking rebuttal to the classism of New Domino City, which maintains that nothing of worth is to be found in their junkyard shadows. The satellite itself carries interesting conceptual links to Debris Dragon. Just as Debris Dragon connects junk to the stars, a satellite is both a diminished body orbiting something greater, but also a technological breakthrough at the cutting edge of what's possible. Clustering crystal dreams open the door to a new evolution. Become the path its light shines upon. Excel Synchro, be born. Our number 7 pick being Shooting Star Dragon. This level 10 Wind Dragon Synchro monster has 3300 attack and 2500 defense, and a plethora of powerful effects. Once per turn, it can excavate 5 cards on top of your deck, with the number of attacks Shooting Star Dragon can perform becoming equal to the number of tuners revealed. On the defensive end, it can negate an effect that would destroy any amount of cards on the field once per turn, redirecting that destruction back of the negated card. Finally, when an enemy monster attacks, you can target it to negate the attack by banishing Shooting Star Dragon, bringing it back during the end phase. This web of effects is offset by strict summoning requirements, since it needs a tuner synchro monster and specifically Stardust Dragon as materials. But before we can talk about the significance of shooting Star Dragon, we'll need to lay some foundation by briefly discussing the phenomenon of synchro summoning. Beyond just sweeping aside a tuner and a monster's cost, what is synchro summoning? It's enabled by a device called the NRD Reactor, which was funded by Kaiba Corp and developed by Yusei Fudo's parents in coordination with researchers Rex and Roman Goodwin. The NRD Reactor is a perpetual motion machine that spins at high speeds in one direction without losing energy to friction or heat. This massive core of power acts like a battery for all of New Domino City, including its Duel Runners and the solid vision technology that makes monsters real. The act of synchro summoning taps into the reactor's vast momentum to evolve dueling monsters. This has the negative side effect of further boosting the speed of the NRD system, expanding both its output of power and the potential of what humanity might accomplish with it. But such potency must also be extremely dangerous, and unstable bursts of NRD can lead to an apocalyptic event known as Zero Reverse, where the direction of the NRD suddenly changes in a fierce explosion of energy. With that background established, a mysterious stranger called Antimony would teach Yusei about Excel Synchro, a new form of synchro summoning that occurs when a synchro tuner combines with another synchro monster. This breakthrough is possible, Antimony explains, because of the essence of NRD is semi-sentient. It is aware and responsive to human emotion. Through the operation of NRD-powered duel runners at high extremes of speeds, a duelist can enter a state known as clear mind, where they're able to tap directly into the flow of NRD within their own heart. But before Yusei is able to perform Excel Synchro, he must manifest or discover an out-of-gold monster card. Luckily, the final human of a distant and doomed future supplies Yusei with Shooting Star Dragon. This human, a machine-merged man called Z1, is the ultimate puppeteer behind the plots of Primo, Lester, and Jacob, and even the one responsible for Antimony teaching Yusei how to access Excel Synchro. Z1 needs the dual energy created by an evolved 5Ds, so he can rip space and time apart, restructuring the present age to prevent a dead future. Although in the anime, Yusei is assisted by Z1 to discover Clear Mind, Excel Synchros, and Shooting Star Dragon, it's important to note that Z1 himself is only aware of these concepts because the Yusei of the original timeline was able to master them. When Yusei acquires Shooting Star Dragon, it might be his first time summoning the card, but for Shooting Star Dragon, it must feel like the return of a friend. From episode 107 to the end of the series, Shooting Star Dragon becomes a critical win condition for Yusei, powered by his trusty deck full of tuners and the NRD that flows inside him. Holding it down at number 6 is a cute little critter. It's Yusei Fudo's trusty pal, Quillbolt Hedgehog. A level 2 Earth Machine monster with 800 attack and defense, Quillbolt Hedgehog isn't as fast as Nitro Warrior or as furious as Junk Berserker, but that doesn't stop it from being one of Yusei's most important cards. While Yusei's endgame strategy usually involves building to powerful synchro monsters like Shooting Star Dragon, the underlying strategy that makes these impressive plays possible comes from monsters like Quillbolt Hedgehog. Although Yusei's main deck monsters often lack the raw strength of his opponents, Jack Atlas in particular, Yusei turns his potential weakness into a moxie by effectively utilizing his graveyard. Even after Yusei's monsters leaves the field, cards like Shield Warrior, A&D Changer, and even those that attribute themselves as costs like Turbo Booster and Zero Gardena protect and extend his plays from the graveyard, and Quillbolt Hedgehog is a big part of Yusei's grave manipulation. While you control a tuner, it can revive itself from the graveyard at the cost of banishing itself the next time it leaves the field. It is frequently tuned with his various synchros to bring out the revolved counterparts. Yusei's strategic focus on his graveyard resonates with his performance for junk monsters, and determination to find meaning and significance where others discount. From the depths of the graveyard to the highest heights of synchro summoning, the number 5 pick on this list is the pinnacle of Yusei's combos. Limit over Excel Synchro, it's Shooting Quasar Dragon. This level 12 Synchro Dragon has 4000 attack and defense and is the ultimate evolution of the bond of Team 5Ds. Yusei only managed to summon Shooting Quasar Dragon once at the climax of his duel against Z1, the final human survivor of a machine-dominated future. To recap, Z1 sent his agents to meddle with the past and also trained Yusei and Team's 5Ds so that he can harness their resulting dual energy to pull himself and his tempo through a dimensional rip. He intends to destroy New Domino City, wiping the discovery of NRD and synchronization from the timeline. In Z1's future, rampant synchro summoning and the negative emotions of humanity corrupt the NRD, eventually attracting the Mech Lords, a line of machines that eradicate humanity down to a handful of survivors. Z1 would try to prevent this, using advanced technology to inspire people by taking the form of the legendary hero Yusei Fudo, but he'd ultimately fail. The final humans then becoming the founding members of Iliaster, a secret society dedicated to redirecting the flow of history to upend the disastrous sequence of events that would lead/have already led to Iliaster's creation. There's a lot of paradoxical time shenanigans in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, including Paradox and the shenanigans he'd enact while traveling through time. Anyway, to stop Z1 in the present and the robot-dominated fate of the future, Yusei would once again exceed his limits by accessing a state of over-top clear mind that would allow him to perform his ultimate summoning technique, Limit over Excel Synchro. So we've already covered Clear Mind, which is what a duelist locks in with their own personal flow of NRD, but now we're going to talk about Top Clear Mind, a meditative state of clarity and openness to all potential futures. Under Top Clear Mind, a duelist can initiate a Delta Excel Synchro summon, which uses a Synchro tuner and 2 or more Synchro monsters. Antimony is able to summon his ace TG Halberd Cannon while under the influence of Top Clear Mind. In a timeline lost by the affairs of Iliaster, Yusei Fudo would have gone on to understand Top Clear Mind on his own, manifesting Cosmic Quasar Dragon. But in the new timeline where Yusei Fudo clashes with Z1 to determine the fate of New Domino City and the entire world, he conceptualizes an even deeper state of dueling enlightenment, called Over Top Clear Mind. Sitting at the nexus of extreme speed, internal manipulation of NRD, the realization that all limits can be exceeded, and the power of the Crimson Dragon is over Top Clear Mind. When Yusei accesses his mindset, the power of NRD flows through him, causing him to glow a holy gold. The Limit over Excel Synchro summon uses 1 Synchro tuner and 2 or more Synchro monsters, and Yusei demonstrates this technique by using the aces of the Signer allies, tuning Black Rose Dragon, Black Wing Dragon, Red Arcfiend Dragon, and Ancient Fairy Dragon with a Life Stream Dragon, to finally summon his ultimate monster, Shooting Quasar Dragon. This is made possible by the anime effect of the level 8 Lifestream Dragon, which sets the other dragon's levels to 1. It's worth noting that functionally, there's not a gameplay mechanic difference between Delta Excel Synchro and Limit over Excel Synchro, but Antimony isn't connected with the Crimson Dragon, so he doesn't get to glow gold like Yusei. Although the shifting timelines erase Cosmic Blazar Dragon, Yusei is still able to manifest the essence of the same creature, now empowered by the touch of the Crimson Dragon. Notice how the artwork of Cosmic Blazar and Shooting Quasar Dragon mirror each other. This is intentional. Also, check out the multicolor synchro rings that surround Shooting Quasar Dragon. Looking closely, there are 6 of them, and their colors correspond to the 6 Signer Dragons. But what does Shooting Quasar Dragon do once it's on the field? Well, it's pretty good, and had a huge impact on the IRL competitive TCG. Shooting Quasar Dragon is an Omni-Negate on legs that can make as many attacks as it uses non-tuners for its materials. That means that Shooting Quasar Dragon tuned with 4 Signer Dragons can attack 4 times for up to 16,000 damage in one battle phase. When Shooting Quasar Dragon leaves the field for any reason, it floats into Shooting Star Dragon from the extra deck, an effect that Yusei uses after crashing Shooting Quasar Dragon into Z1's ultimate monster, Sandion the Ultimate Time Lord. Cosmic Quasar Dragon, a retrain of Shooting Quasar Dragon, was printed in 2023's Duelist Nexus, which is also pretty good. And stand-in number 4 on our list is the trap card, Scrap Iron Scarecrow. This trap is a piece of vital support that Yusei uses to save his monsters again and again, and not just in duel after duel. Scrap Iron Scarecrow can be activated turn after turn, since after activation it sets itself face down instead of going to the graveyard. This is a fantastic effect for a normal trap, and for a defensive one that can negate an enemy attack especially, which is what Scrap Iron Scarecrow does. In order to use the graveyard effectively, a duelist must succeed in 2 areas. 1, getting necessary cards in grave, and 2, keeping necessary cards on the field. Scrap Iron Scarecrow gives Yusei's board the protection it needs to benefit from Yusei's grave strategy, and it's also another example of Yusei repurposing junk to useful ends. The Scrap Iron Scarecrow is cobbled together from heaps of metal debris, so it makes sense that it resets instead of goes to the graveyard. Yusei's always got junk to repurpose, because he's open to the possibilities that others have closed off. It's probably this facet of Yusei's character that leads to him mastering the state of Top Clear Mind in 2 timelines. Scrap Iron Scarecrow would go on to inspire a small line of normal traps, including Scrap Iron Statue, Scrap Iron Signal, and Scrap Iron Sacred Statue. While Scrap Iron Signal's art shows a set of junkyard traffic lights, the Scrap Iron Traps all reference Yusei's cards. Scrap Iron Statue is in the shape of Stardust Dragon, while Scrap Iron's Sacred Statue's visual motif is the Crimson Dragon. Scrap Iron Scarecrow, being the first, pays homage to Junk Synchro and Junk Warrior. The scarf that's tied beneath the Scarecrow's helmet is similar to the one worn by both warriors. And while we're talking about Junk Synchro, let's keep talking about Junk Synchro because it's the number 3 pick for this list. This is a level 3 Dark Warrior with 1300 attack and 500 defense. Junk Synchro is the first tuner monster Yusei summons and also the last. When it tunes another monster, it pulls its ripcord like an engine getting started. On summon, Junk Synchron can revive a level 2 or lower monster from the graveyard with its effects negated, making it a 1-card level 4 or 5 Synchro as long as you've got the graveyard to support it. It revives your low-level Junks to combine it to become something of value. But of course, Yusei already sees the value in Junk, which is why he has chosen to run Junk Synchron at all. There are 5 Synchro monsters that specifically require Junk Synchron as their tuner: Junk Warrior, Junk Archer, Junk Gardener, Junk Destroyer, and Junk Berserker. Yusei would debut each of these monsters throughout the series of Bonds Beyond Time movie, starting with Junk Warrior shortly after him summoning a Junk Synchron in episode 1, and culminating with Junk Berserker in his duel against Antimony in episode 144. Junk Synchron also appears in the artwork of a few other cards, including Synchro Strike, Urgent Tuning, Give and Take, Synchro Spirits, Junk Splash, Synchro Chase, and Tuner's High. It has the same attribute, level, and stats as Dark Resonator, and Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, 2 core tuner monsters used by fellow Team 5D's members Jack Atlas and Crow Hogan. During Junk Synchro's final appearance in episode 154, Yusei uses the effect to revive Speed Warrior. Since he has a tuner on field, he can then call out Quillbolt Hedgehog from the graveyard. These 3 monsters join Sonic Chick and Sonic Warrior to give Yusei a full field to face down Jack Atlas's Red Arcfiend Dragon. Watching the duel are the rest of Team 5D's, Akiza, Luna, Leo, and Crow. Akiza and Luna note the monsters Yusei has assembled are all the ones that have been with him since the beginning, before the rise of the Dark Signers and the interference of Z1 and the Mech Lords. Although Yusei has risen in station from his early days as a down on his luck, dueling outlaw with a criminal mark, he hasn't forgotten the allies that stood by him before he felt the favor of the city. Leo and Crow observe that while none of Yusei's monsters have particularly high levels or attack values, together they still give him the strength to challenge an opponent as tough as the Red Arcfiend Dragon. Ultimately, Yusei's adventures had led to great change in his life and the lives of the entire community. But he remains true to the person he was, the one who saved Raleigh Dawson at the cost of his Duel Runner and strongest card all those years ago. The hopes of the world coalesce into a single star. Let's rev it up, take flight, Stardust Dragon. Yusei Fudo's ace monster is a level 8 Wind Synchro Dragon with the trademark Yu-Gi-Oh! Good Guy attack power value of 2500. It has 2000 defense, is the only protagonist ace that's neither light nor dark, and is one of the TCG's most important cards ever, just like it's one of Yusei's most important cards ever. Even though Stardust Dragon is his ace monster, Yusei doesn't get to use it until the 4th episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and doesn't get to summon it himself until his duel against Akiza in episode 24. At the start of the series, Stardust Dragon was in the possession of acclaimed master of Faster, but also friend betrayer Jack Atlas. After Yusei duels his way out of the satellite by defeating Sector Security Officer Tetsu Trudge, Yusei gets the chance to engage Jack Atlas in a turbo duel. Before the start of their match, Jack tries to return Stardust Dragon, but Yusei refuses, saying that he'll reclaim his dragon when he defeats him. Overall, Yusei is a pretty decent guy. Great, really. But he's stubborn, and that sometimes gets him into a little bit of trouble, or causes him to fall into despair, like after his first encounters with the Dark Signer Kalen Kessler and Mechlord Emperor Weasel. Still, if there's one thing Jack Atlas respects, it's bold moves backed up by strength. Although he would summon Stardust Dragon during the duel, Yusei would take control of his ace dragon with a trap, Harmonia Mirror. This showdown would end in a draw, however, as the clashing duel energies would prompt an appearance from the Crimson Dragon, causing both competitors' duel runners to malfunction and crash. Still, Yusei was about to win before the interruption, and this combined with memories of his resurgent past and desire to prove the mettle of his soul in a real challenge are likely the broiling emotions that led Jack Atlas to finally return Stardust Dragon to Yusei in episode 14. In time since their match, Yusei had been arrested, marked as a criminal with a yellow streak down his face, broken out of prison, and discovered that his friends were now hostages of the nefarious forces from New Domino City, forcing him to enter the Fortune Cup and about to save them. Grappling with all of these unruly feelings and the fact that Yusei's friends were once his friends too, Jack tells Yusei that he should really hold on to his ace dragon. In this way, the path of Stardust Dragon, the card reflects the protective effect of the monster. On the field, you can tribute Stardust Dragon to negate an effect that would destroy any number of cards. Then, during the end phase, Stardust Dragon returns. When Rally was drifting out to sea, Yusei sacrificed Stardust Dragon so that he could save his friend, and later, Stardust Dragon would return. This effect also is symbolic of Yusei himself, who is quick to help a friend, even at steep personal cost or risk to his own health. But ultimately, the good we put out into the world comes around, or so suggests one of the core themes of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Although Yusei's drive to assist others sometimes puts him through inconvenience, danger, and even loss, it's worth it in the end, because together, the imperfect and therefore consequential goodness of Team 5Ds is able to overcome and change a destiny filled with murder robots. Yusei's Stardust Dragon summoning chant plainly states what the Stardust Dragon is, and what it means. The hopes of the world coalesced into a single star. Stardust Dragon is radical intentions catalyzed into action. It is the hope for a better world, and the antithesis of the series' ultimate antagonist Z1, who experiences no hope and instead coldly calculating the necessary bloodletting to prevent bloodshed. Z1 is an interesting figure, because while hope lived within him and he sought to be like Yusei to inspire a better world, he was aware of the potential of Top Clear Mind and how Yusei used it to call Cosmic Blazar Dragon. But that's lost to the past. The Z1 we meet has abandoned synchro summoning altogether, and views the advanced forms of synchronization as dangerous escalations of power and nothing more. He probably no longer has access to Top Clear Mind, since he's given up on the possibility of feeling the flow and positively manifesting a new and better world. Instead, he pursues his goals by hurting others, trapped by the belief that this is the only way. Revisiting the act of synchro summoning, what is it really? It taps into the power of NRD, accelerating its speed to call forth evolved monsters. Perhaps synchro summoning is itself indicative of change, a stream of chaotic casual momentum that is both creative and destructive, with neither force being inherently good or bad. Reckless synchro summoning can create the future of the mech lords, but it can also destroy the systemized impoverishments of satellite so something new can be created instead. Stardust Dragon represents both the goodness of Yusei and the potential for positive change. Before we move on to our number 1 pick for Yusei Fudo's most important card, let's take a brief moment for an honorable mention to Yusei's one extra deck monster that's not a synchro, Dragon Knight Draco Equiste. This level 10 wind dragon monster with 3200 attack and 2000 defense is the fusion of a synchro dragon and a warrior monster. Yusei used this during episode 102 during his duel against Jean, shaking up his typical style after encountering the mech lords and their anti-synchro abilities. Because he hadn't yet become familiar with Clear Mind and Excel Synchro, he thought he'd have to look beyond his usual strategies to overcome these mysterious new opponents. Watching the duel, Jack Atlas commented that he'd never seen Yusei perform a fusion summon before. Even though the act of fusing was unfamiliar ground to Yusei, he brought out a monster by merging together two of his favorites, Stardust Dragon and Junk Warrior. The resulting Dragon Knight can banish a synchro monster from grave to copy its effects for the rest of the turn, and has the passive effect of redirecting any effect damage you take from your opponent's cards back to your opponent while it's in attack mode. While it wouldn't make sense to give Draco Knight a spot on this list, it's worth mentioning because it demonstrates Yusei's strength as a duelist, both in his willingness to pivot and in his ability to perform a diverse range of extra deck summons. Even the tiniest scrap has value, and this monster proves it. Yusei's most important card is Junk Warrior. Similar to its Synchron counterpart, Junk Warrior is the first and last synchro monster used by Yusei Fudo in the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5e series. It's a level 5 Dark Warrior with 2300 attack and 1300 defense. It requires Junk Synchron as its tuner and gains attack equal to the total of all your level 2 and lower monsters on Synchro Summon. Junk Warrior's effect to gain the attack of Yusei's low level monsters mirrors how Yusei's real strength is in his bonds with his friends. When Yusei and Jack first clash over Stardust Dragon in episode 4, Junk Warrior is destroyed by Jack's Red Dragon Archfiend. 150 episodes later, during the ultimate rematch between Yusei and his arch-rival, the duel once again comes down to Junk Warrior and Red Dragon Archfiend. He tunes Sonic Warrior with Junk Synchron, while his Speed Warrior, Sonic Chick, and Quillbolt Hedgehog are on the field, all of which are level 1s and 2s. Because Sonic Warrior was used as a synchro material, Yusei's other monsters each gain 400 points, causing Junk Warrior's attack to increase all the way up to 5500. When Red Dragon Archfiend and Junk Warrior clash for the final time, Junk Warrior overpowers Red Dragon Archfiend and takes the duel. It's suggestive that the last battle of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds is not between Jack and Yusei's respective signer dragons. That Yusei is able to overcome Jack Atlas with the monster that had been at his side since the very beginning is significant because it shows that Yusei always had the strength to overcome Jack, even during the days when Jack languished in wealth and luxury while Yusei ran from the cops. During their duel in the finals of Season 1's Fortune Cup, Jack reveals a belief that Yusei has not sacrificed enough for greatness, but in time would learn that he was incorrect. Yusei's willingness to sacrifice his personal glory for the good of others made him stronger, because his bonds with others would pick him up when he fell. Jack would actually take steps towards learning this lesson through his relationship with Carly Carmine, who was there for him in his despondent days following his Fortune Cup defeat. Together, Yusei and Team's 5Ds face the devils of the past and the shadows of the future. They changed the timeline and grew up. But through all the revelations, heartbreak, and celebration, Yusei remained true to himself, shown through his continued reliance on Junk Warrior and all his favorite monsters. Junk Warrior's importance as one of Yusei's aces right up there with Stardust Dragon is shown by its signature attack becoming its own card, Scrap Fist. The artwork of Scrap Fist is even taken from Yusei's and Jack's final duel when Junk Warrior vanquished Red Dragon Arcfiend. Junk Warrior bookends Yusei's journey over the course of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. While Stardust Dragon represents the hopes of the world, Junk Warrior is a closer analog to Yusei himself, and it's because of who Yusei is that he is able to inspire and share this hope. Hey you, are you tired of boring, predictable merch? Wouldn't you love it if you could have something more exciting? Something with a random chance to give you more than what you spent on it, but in a legally distinct way that's not gambling? Well, we have nothing like that for you. But we do have something pretty similar. Introducing the DuelLogs TCG Mystery Box. It comes with playmats, card sleeves, a deck box, and not one, but 2 DuelLogs mini plushies. Individually, all these items would cost over $130. But if you buy them all together in the mystery box, it's only $59.99, being less than half the price if you bought everything individually on the DuelLogs store. Order yours today. Check the link in the video description or the display under the video.